Welcome back to the heavily censored, demonetized, 100% viewer-supported, high-impact flicks channel. And have I got some words of wisdom for you from Sheila Jackson Lee, as well as a brand new House resolution bill which could literally label you as a white supremacist? I want to thank Noble Gold for sponsoring today's video. Most Americans don't own sound money. Sound money is defined by the Constitution as gold and silver. It's been accepted as sound money for over 5,000 years. And even though it's been artificially suppressed by the international banking cartel, it was the best performing investment class for 2022. In that year, the S&P was down 20%, the Dow was down 10%, and Bitcoin was down over 65%. Gold and silver outperformed them all. Open a gold or silver IRA with Noble Gold Investments this month and get this quarter-ounce American Gold Eagle for free with every qualified IRA of $50K or more. With thousands of five-star reviews, there's a lot of happy people who are glad they went with Noble Gold. Check them out with my link in the description and in the pinned comment. Now, back to today's video. Like we've said many times on this channel, no problem is so bad that it can't be made exponentially worse by government. And that's what we have here. This is H.R. 61. This is called the Leading Against White Supremacy Act of 2023. And I just want to go through this and read this to you. And then we're going to play a clip by Sheila Jackson Lee to show you that the criticism that I offer toward her with her ignorance regarding the AR-15 platform and what kind of rounds it shoots could fit me into this HR 61 mold of being a white supremacist. That's how ridiculous this bill is. To prevent and prosecute, it says, white supremacy inspired hate crime. My question is, who gets to define hate crime? Who gets to define who a white supremacist is? And is that the only kind of ethnic supremacy? There's only such thing as white supremacy? There's no other kind of ethnic supremacy? And conspiracy to commit white supremacy inspired hate crime and to amend Title 18 U.S. Code to expand the scope of hate crimes. That's all we need. Expanding the scope of hate crimes, we already don't know what the definition is, and the definition that they have is so broad you can fit pretty much everything into it. Ms. Jackson Lee introduced the following bill, which was referred to the Committee on the Judiciary to prevent and prosecute white supremacy inspired hate crime. This act may be cited as the Leading Against White Supremacy Act of 2023. And we know that when these bills seek to become laws, when they become laws, they actually do the exact opposite of what they intended. For example, the Affordable Care Act became unaffordable, extremely unaffordable, and low quality. And the Patriot Act was very unpatriotic. Anytime it's like the Protecting Americans Act or the Inflation Reduction Act. Well, the Inflation Reduction Act is actually going to become the Inflation Acceleration Act in practice. So it says, in general, a person engages in a white supremacy inspired hate crime when white supremacy ideology has motivated the planning, development, preparation, or perpetration of actions that constitute a crime or were undertaken in the furtherance of activity that, if effectuated, would have constituted a crime. This is pre-crime, guys. This is pre-crime terminology. And not only that, it says when white supremacy ideology has motivated the planning development. So we're talking about motivations, and we're talking about crimes that haven't even become crimes yet. And they're intending on prosecuting people who they believe perpetrated that because they believe that was their motivation, and they believe that motivation and that planning would have led to a crime that hasn't happened yet. That's how dangerous this terminology is. A conspiracy to engage in white supremacy inspired hate crime shall be determined to exist, quote, between two or more persons engaged in planning, development, preparation, or perpetration of a white supremacy inspired hate crime, or between two or more persons, at least one of whom engaged in the planning, development, preparation, or perpetration of a white supremacy inspired hate crime. What if the other person's not aware of it? Too bad, he's guilty. Because it says between two or more persons, but if at least one of them is involved in this, what we describe as a motivating factor in a crime that hasn't existed yet, well, then they're both guilty. At least one of whom published material advancing white supremacy, white supremacist ideology. Who gets to define what white supremacy is? Who gets to define what white supremacist ideology is? Antagonism based on replacement theory. What if that's a thing? What if that is truly a thing? They're literally right here. They're striking at the root of the First Amendment, freedom of speech right here. They're saying you don't have the freedom to do that right there. You don't have the freedom to say this. And we have the right to determine what your motivation was and if it would commit, and end up in the commission of a crime in the future. Or hate speech that vilifies or is otherwise directed against any non-white person and such published material. And then it says, was published on a social media platform or by other means of publications with the likelihood that it would be viewed by persons who are predisposed to engage in. So now they're going to assume that your audience is predisposed to act a certain way if they hear certain things that they determine are going to be hate crimes. This is horrible that anybody would entertain this. I think she's the only signer on it right now, but I can see a whole lot of Democrats signing on to this. Just the fact that something like this is entertained on the House floor is ridiculous. Any action in furtherance of white supremacy inspired hate crime, again, they get to define that, or who are susceptible to being encouraged to engage in actions of furtherance by white supremacy inspired hate crime. Let me just show you how ignorant somebody can be about something that is so simple to understand, and trying to sell a lie to people who could easily find out the information that rivals her description of an AR-15. Listen to this. This is Sheila Jackson Lee, the author of HR 61.
A weapon. I've held an AR-15 in my hand. I wish I had it. It is as heavy as 10 boxes that you might be moving. And the bullet that is utilized, a 50 caliber, these kinds of bullets need to be licensed and do not need to be on the streets.
An AR-15, Sheila Jackson Lee says, is as heavy as 10 boxes you might be moving and fires a 50 caliber round. That's how ignorant. And she's talking to the press, knowing that the press is going to disseminate this information to the masses who are going to know better. This is how blatantly she fibbed about the AR-15. But me criticizing her because I'm a particular color of skin and she's a particular color of skin could make me guilty of violating HR 61 here. It's as heavy as 10 boxes. 10 boxes of what? 10 boxes of air? 10 empty boxes? 10 super small empty boxes? Because an empty AR-15 that doesn't have a fully loaded magazine is around 6 pounds, 5.5, 6 pounds. And it doesn't shoot 50. Can you imagine a 50 caliber round? Try putting a 50 caliber round into an AR-15 chamber there, Sheila Jackson Lee. But me criticizing, me offering right criticism of her could hold me guilty in the eyes of HR 61. Could is determined by a reasonable person, motivate actions. We're talking about motivating factors. By a person predisposed to engaging in white supremacy-inspired hate crime, or by a person who is susceptible to being encouraged to engage in those actions, was read, heard, or viewed by a person who engaged in the planning, development, preparation, or perpetration of a white supremacy-inspired hate crime. And again, they get to define all these terms. And then they get to fit you into that definition and that mold, and then hold you guilty for violating this new law of the land if it passes as a law. Holy cow, if it does. So then she writes in a new authority for the Department of Injustice. Department of Justice Authority, Enforcement, Monitoring, and Reporting. The department shall have authority to conduct operations and activities pursuant to this section, specifically with regard to information or evidence obtained by the department of any action cited in this section. The department shall have the authority to investigate, intercede, and undertake other actions that it deems necessary and appropriate to interdict, mitigate, or prevent such action from culminating into violent activity. This is Minority Report pre-crime. Set your watches, appear, get there before the actual crime happened, and then make that arrest. This is literally, HR 61 is a pre-crime bill. Just like the TAPS Act, the Threat Assessment Protection and Safety Act, it's literally Minority Report 2.0 on steroids. Thanks, Brian Babin and Dan Eye Patch, Pirate Man Crenshaw. The department shall have the authority to prosecute persons who engage in actions cited in this section. And that just keeps on going and then makes some definitions right here. So that is H.R. 61, penned by Sheila Jackson Lee, who says that an AR-15 is as heavy as 10 boxes you might be carrying and fires a 50 caliber round. That's the depth of ignorance that we're dealing with here. That's the depth of criminality, to turn somebody into a criminal because they fit a loose, broad spectrum definition of white supremacy into that mold right there. Offer up any kind of criticism of any kind of minorities, and hey, you could be on the chopping block if Bill H.R. 61 becomes a law. What is going on with this world? Leave your thoughts about this for the world and the global thought police in the comment section below. If you want to support this channel, grab a hard-hitting conversation starting design from the shirt store. I got a brand new design you'll want to take a look at. Actually, 2 or 3 new designs in the last 7 to 10 days. Look at those. I'll leave the link in the description for you under merch. And if you want to, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, the bell notification icon. Give this video a thumbs up. Share it with everybody you know. Don't forget to leave a comment. It really helps with the algorithm. I will see you guys in the next heavily censored shadow ban video. Guys, we already know that they want to decimate the dollar, destroy the economy, bring us into a cashless society, and eventually make it difficult for us to even get food. That's why I constantly promote My Patriot Supply. Every chance I get, I turn my fiat currency notes into long-term storable food. This stuff is awesome. It's got a 25-year shelf life. And one thing we're all going to need is storable food. It's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. With my link in the description, you get $100 off of every order instantly. It'd be a good idea to order it while you can, because I'm not sure how much longer they're going to be able to ship this out. My link for your $100 off discount is in the description below.